Well, hello there. Welcome to Talk Fort Dodge with Todd McCubbin and Jeremiah Condon. Today we have Jesse Ulrich, superintendent with the Fort Dodge school system. So, welcome, Jesse. How are you?
Hey, I'm living the dream. Thanks for having me, guys. This is great.
Heck yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in my third year here in Fort Dodge, but Fort Dodge is no stranger to me. My wife and I were high school sweethearts. We both grew up in West Bend, Iowa, which is just northwest of here, home of the grotto. That's our claim to fame.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
but after graduating high school, I went to Iowa Central and then BV night classes right here in Fort Dodge. So it's great to be back and close to family, and it's been a great place to raise our family.
That's awesome. It's good. I did not know that. I went to Iowa Central in BV night classes and then finished my master's online after that. So
Great
program. And your doctorate.
I earned my doctorate at Iowa State University and did finish that up in 2017. That was a great, experience. A lot of people, don't realize for superintendents, it's actually 2 master's degrees to just become a superintendent. So I was that close. So I went ahead and took the final plunge and finished up at Iowa State. So they were great to work with and beautiful campus.
Yep, that's awesome.
go Cyclones.
Go Clones. Hey, so elephant in the room is the CIML and Fort Dodge schools leaving some of the bigger schools in Des Moines. You tell us a little bit about that decision and how you came about that, and just what's all going on there.
Yeah, in all honesty, this is probably one of the easiest decisions we've made here in Fort Dodge. Back in the early 90s when Fort Dodge joined the CIML, just to put it in perspective, Waukee was a 2A school with 250 kids in their high school. Okay?
Wow.
Now they're going to open their second high school, and even with their second high school opening, they'll be basically double the size in both high schools that Fort Dodge is, currently. So for Fort Dodge, this was strictly an enrollment issue. When night in and night out, you're playing schools that are literally 2 to 3 times the size of you. It's not competitive. And the example that I've provided with that, and I use the joke that, there's a reason that David and Goliath was a one-time event. So if Fort Dodge is sitting here with 1,000 kids in our high school and we have to come up with the best 5 basketball players versus other suburban schools who have 2,500 to 3,000 kids in a high school and they're coming up with the 5 best basketball players, who mathematically has an advantage?
Right.
So what developed over this past year is the CML was having a lot of different discussions about how we possibly realign the conference to more size-alike schools and those types of things. And, and truth be told, the Suburbans were not in favor of that because they didn't want their RPI or their strength of schedule to diminish because they like the wins in the win column.
Yep.
So when we looked at it, the 10 schools that are leaving the CIML, when we take our winning percentage versus the 9 suburbs, it was 16%. And so even Fort Dodge, where we feel like we have a phenomenal girls softball program, right? When we take our record over even the last 5 years versus the suburb schools, we're still below 500. So it was obvious that there was going to be a split among the CIML. And I think for Fort Dodge, the question was really, do we split away with the schools that we are size alike, more demographically alike, or do we stay and play the suburbs? And to me, that's why I say this was one of the easiest decisions for Fort Dodge, because the conference that we're going to not only upholds the traditional rivals like Mason City and Ames and Marshalltown, that we really value, but we're in a conference where night in and night out, we're in a conference where we're the same size of schools. So at least we have a competitive, even playing field from an enrollment standpoint. Now this isn't, because I've heard blasphemy statements like, oh, well, you're running away from competition and iron sharpens iron and blah, blah, blah. Well, how's that working for us now? I mean, it's not,
No.
so we have a responsibility to our kids to put them in the best situation possible, to be competitive. You guys are both St. Ed's guys. I really compare it also to where when St. Ed's transitioned away from just being an independent and playing anybody to actually getting into a conference where there were size alike and demographically alike, school districts. And it's really, it's played well for St. Ed's. And I really think that this is going to be a great move for Fort Dodge, down the road. So our goal is that more kids are going to want to participate because we're more competitive and have a better experience.
That's awesome. I agree with it completely. And
great response.
Honestly, I had kids go to Prairie Valley, Senior High, and St. Ed, so I kind of ran the gamut of all of them. So little school to big school, and they all had a great experience wherever they went. So
right.
Yeah, Desmond did great at Fort Dodge schools. He loved it there. Second question is, it's been going on just over a year. St. Patrick's Day 2017, I know we shut the brewery down and everything kind of ended. Fort Dodge Schools, I think, my opinion, has done a great job with the COVID response. Kind of tell us how that worked and how you see that changing education in the future.
Yeah, what I would say is, and kudos to our staff and our teachers, this has probably been professionally the most difficult year any of us have ever participated in. From the very beginning, what we wanted to do was we wanted to try to strike a balance between keeping people safe and at the same time recognizing that there is a negative effect when kids are not in school. Kids not being in school is not a good thing. Whether it's social isolation, increase in depression, and all of those types of things. And that hasn't come without the fair share of critics that feel, hey, you didn't do enough. But our numbers have really stayed steady. In fact, since Christmas break, our numbers have been great. We've had a lot of weeks where we haven't had any positive cases within the school, and just as a reminder to people, we've got 600 employees and 3,700 kids. I mean, that's a lot of bodies, to potentially, have some positive cases. So, number one question I get asked is, hey, are you going to continue to do the quote unquote mask mandate at school? And the answer to that is, our approach has always been that face masks are required when socially distancing isn't possible. And the reason we utilize that definition is it consistently follows CDC. And the other is with the state of Iowa and quarantining, for students who have a face mask on, if they are exposed to COVID, they don't have to miss 2 weeks of school.
Right.
So until they change the definition of quarantining and the regulations with that, I foresee school districts, continuing down this path for sure through the rest of this year, but as you listen to politics, et cetera, it sounds like if we can all do the right thing and hopefully middle of the summer here, we can kind of start to turn the page and have a little bit more normalcy when we start this year. I think there are some things with COVID that are going to continue to stick around. Some of those things, just like in the business world, folks found out how efficient it was to just be on Zoom and have so many meetings a day rather than having to travel, this, that, and the other. We, in a very short amount of time, figured out how to try to educate kiddos online. But I mean, and you can look at the quotes in the paper. I've been really consistent through all of this. There is no substitution, no adequate substitution for face-to-face instruction with a teacher. So when we do remote things, when we do online things, it's as much as we can to try to bridge that gap of the learning opportunity, but it's not the same as being face-to-face with a teacher. So, but there's also things that I think people are realizing, even in the business world. Yes, you can have boatloads and fill your day with Zoom meetings, but you do still miss the personal connections and relationships with people within those meetings. So, I foresee even in the business world, yes, it may be a shift where not everybody's going back to quote unquote the office, but I foresee that relationship piece needing to be rekindled and people getting back to face to face.
Oh, I agree.
Go ahead, I agree
Jeff.
with you 100%. I was just in a board meeting yesterday, and we've been doing a lot of Zooms and stuff, and it was our very first person to person. And after the meeting, someone pulled me over to the side, and we had our little discussion. That's what doesn't happen anymore. You don't get those little side discussions. You don't get things that are very important, that I really came away with. So,
yep,
yes.
Exactly right.
So as we're evolving, it's good, but it's also like, we need that person to person.
Oh, definitely. Relationships are important to growing as a child and as an adult, and professionally and educationally. So I completely agree. So big question I've been saying for months now is, because of Zoom, are we not going to have snow days anymore? Are they just going to be Zoom days? So spring break can be spring break and we can get out of school on time?
That's an interesting question. So right now, and don't quote me, I'm not sure it's passed yet, but there is a piece of legislation that would allow school districts to utilize 5 days of snow days as virtual instruction and still count it towards the instructional time. I think what's difficult about this one is anytime we've done surveys and feedback from parents about a school calendar, it's usually the same. And what I mean by that is we don't want to start until after Labor Day. Right. We want a nice chunk around Thanksgiving. We want 2 full weeks for Christmas. We want a full spring break, a full week spring break. And by the way, we want to be done by the end of May. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, guess what? We can't have it all, right? I mean, something's got to give. This year, we really we did do virtual snow days, and that was kind of mixed response depending on the level of the child. I think middle school and high school kids had a little bit better of a time because they're a little bit more independent learners and can do things, to where in the elementary, it's a struggle. I mean, we're not going to lie, so that's why we kind of tested the waters this year, so to speak, with virtual days. That's a good question going into the future, because again, as we continue to get feedback from parents, our community, and and our staff, it's really about how do we find that balance between quality learning, and at the same time getting out when folks can still tolerate that. I mean, I've been a superintendent in the days where we've gone into the second week of June, and I'll be the first to admit there ain't nobody happy the second week of June about being in school, including the superintendent. I mean, at a certain point, you've hit the max amount of learning that we can get done without having a substantial break. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Okay, so now that we're talking about snow days, who is in charge of the 2-hour delay?
I am. So all those complaints that you've been complaining about, Jeremiah, I hear about. And I will tell you this.
I only complain to your wife because I see her every Thursday morning.
And she appreciates that. So here's the deal. I'll ask you this. How many student funerals have you had to attend? I've been to 5. And quite frankly, they are the worst experience of anyone's life. So when I take very seriously student safety, and the thing that most people forget about, especially here in Fort Dodge, because, I could get across town just fine and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, you're an adult with a nice SUV and experienced driver, and you went across town. We also have to think about the kids in Badger, the kids down, over in Duncombe, the kids who have to walk, because we follow the state guidelines. So our elementary kids, when it's 30 below, have to walk a full 2 miles to get to an elementary, So anytime we take a look at a late start, we will always err on the side of caution, simply because it's, in a lot of days, it's, if it's marginable, at least let the sun come up so that our bus drivers can see. I think about those 16-year-olds who are driving to school on bald tires in an old Toyota. I mean, so things are very, very different. And, and I always laugh too, because, the older generation will hit me up at the coffee shops and, back in the day, we used to always go to school. And I congratulate them because they raised the generation of parents who will sue the holy hell out of the school district if something ever happens to their child on the way to school and they were in an accident. So, I think, honestly though, before COVID, I used to say that, that winter weather decisions were probably the worst part of my job, because we put a lot of trust in meteorologists who
are wrong.
No.
who they're wrong. I mean, I remember when I first came to Fort Dodge, the very first snowstorm, it was one of those snow apocalypses. And it's just, we're going to get 12 inches of snow. And I said to somebody, you know what, even if they're half wrong, we're not having school.
Mm-hmm.
We call it off, blah, blah. Not a snowflake. Not one, so
they off in the winter though.
Yeah. So, I take a lot of criticism from the winner. And it's just what I try to tell people is we try to make the best decision with the information that we have. And, if it's questionable, we're going to err on the side, of caution, because what we just hope folks have is a little bit of empathy for the kids who may not have a parent to be able to take them to school in the morning and relying on a brother and sister who may not be as experienced to get them to school.
Yep. Wow, that's a great.
Jesse, I want to tell you that was about the best answer you could possibly have. And Todd, did you notice how he lectured me without yelling and screaming at me and put me in my place? That was pretty good.
Lecture him more often. He needs it.
I'm a teacher at heart. That
was pretty good.
Next question is kind of fun. We have a couple questions left, but I'm a superhero guy. Marvel. Who's your favorite superhero and why?
With it being Easter weekend, I'm probably going to have to say Jesus, right? I mean, because, I think he did something fairly significant for all of us. So, we gotta give thanks for that. If there was a second place finisher, I grew up watching Batman. I love the Batman series. So, that's been a good one. I haven't really gotten into the superheroes, but it's fun watching my kids. We're getting all of the classics out and letting them play with things. So it's been really, really good.
Yeah. I will tell you, I was just a little in it, and I know you got little Benjamin. When we got Disney Plus, we started watching the Marvel superheroes, and then there's chronological order. Mm-hmm. So we kind of started watching those, and it's oh my gosh, Captain America is awesome. And then I'm sitting there catching myself begging Benjamin. It's 8 o'clock or 7:30 at night. I'd be hey, let's go watch Captain America and lay down in bed for a little bit.
And I've got 3 daughters, so obviously we're Superwoman, fans. As well. But the other is, they're not superheroes, but I don't like the garbage cartoons that are on TV now. So we've watched the classic Tom and Jerry's, etc. We went to the movie theater here a couple of weeks ago here in Fort Dodge and watched the new Tom and Jerry. And that was a phenomenal movie because they did a nice job of kind of intermixing the old classic cartoon and, just getting the crap beat out of them, as cartoons with the new age of animation. So it was really good.
I'll check that out. A little more serious note, and then we'll end with something a little more fun. But so educate you. I emailed you and said, what's important to you in your job, and you talked about education and economic development. Mm-hmm. And I kept racking my brain for a great question to ask on that. But I think the easiest way to say it is, how does education tie into economic development, and what is your role as a leader to make that happen?
Right. I remind people all the time, Fort Dodge Community School District is the second largest employer in Webster County. We have 600 full-time employees. If you add in our substitutes, et cetera, we're a little over 700 employees. On top of that, we serve 3,700 families. Just on an economic basis of people making money, spending money in our community, and having good, solid paying jobs, that's a huge impact on our community. If you think about, Jeremiah, this is, well, for both of you who are realtors, we have a heck of a time for our teachers and administrators bringing in, finding them quality, affordable housing, because it's tough in this town. My wife and I, experienced that when we were moving here. If you think about just in this past year, to year and a half, all of the construction projects that this district has done. We spent about $3.5 million on the new central office facility to make the 5th grade transition happen. We're spending $6 million to renovate the former area building, to put that into an early childhood center, to be an elementary building. We've got on the docket to remodel Cooper and some other HVAC projects utilizing federal dollars. So all of those have been general contractors right here in Fort Dodge and local subs. So what I want folks to sometimes remember is we sometimes take our school system for granted in regards to what we bring to the table and what we do for the community. Because if we stop doing construction projects, then that's jobs that our folks are going to have to try to figure out. If we have less teachers, if our funding goes down, we don't have as many students, and, we cut a bunch of staff, that's a negative impact, on our community, so that, and in addition to that, 70%, I think the Realty Growth Alliance had some data that they shared with us one time. 70% of all employees in Fort Dodge either grew up here, went to school here, or had family here. Mm-hmm. So that tells us we don't just have random people who want to come to Fort Dodge, stake a claim, and finish out a career. So that means the 300 kiddos that we're going to have graduate, from senior high this year. Guess what? That's, if 70% of them, that's over 230 who we can ensure are going to be right here in Fort Dodge. Yeah. So it's our job to make sure that we're connecting them with local businesses and economic development to be able to get them, on the right foot and on the right path, and having strong relationships with all of our partners, is critical in that. So we're really proud of what we do here. And, it's not a prideful thing and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, most kids are going here, and we're trying to educate them, the best that we can so that they can be productive members of our society.
We appreciate that. Great answer. And yeah, I appreciate that a lot. And
so I have a quick statement and then one last question. Mm-hmm. Right when you came here, I have some friends that have kids in the high school. And I think it was your first year, and I think it was maybe the middle of the year. They came over for supper, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, the superintendent is so funny," because apparently they follow you online or whatever about weather updates and this and that. Yeah. And that was before I barely even knew who you were. And I was like, wow, that's really cool that there's a sophomore and a senior talking about how cool you are and how they respected you and watching you on social media. So
Twitter's been awesome. I mean, that's probably my main platform of interacting with kids. And when I say kids, you would be amazed at the number of St. Ed's kiddos who also lobby me for snow days as well. Not just senior high kids. So I mean, I get it from all of the schools, in the area. But I've said this a lot, and some people would disagree with me, but they might be wrong. People say all the time, "Oh, kids have changed." I don't think kids have changed. I mean, I think adults have really changed, because most of the time, kids are always going to follow the expectation when held accountable and meet that high expectation that you lay out for kids. Now, I do think as generationally, something that we're going to have to reckon with, as families and parents, et cetera, is what is that expectation for kids, and how can we meet the needs, of these kids in a really positive way, that isn't just going to the participation medal type of philosophy that exists. Kids have always toed the line. It's just a matter of where that line is. So I've really enjoyed my time in interacting with our kids and our families, and we got great ones.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Go ahead, Todd. Ask him his favorite
Here it is. So today is April 1st, April Fool's Day, and I haven't called my mom yet to say there's an alligator in the front yard because that was always her joke. But best April Fool's Day joke you've either played on someone or been a victim of?
Yeah, I canceled prom one year.
Awesome.
I canceled prom one year, and that actually backfired on me because I had some parents really mad. Like literally, I was ruining their child's dream, and I had the after prom parents calling me because how could I not? I mean, and so that one kind of backfired on me. But I would have to say the year that I canceled prom ranks right up there.
That's awesome. Well,
that was good. Now I gotta say, 2 years ago, Todd was parked out here, and I have a bunch of Barbies for the girls when they come play in the office, and I went and duct taped a Barbie on the back of Todd's vehicle, so that when he put it in reverse, there's this Barbie waving at him.
Nice, very good.
Awesome. Well, I think that's enough for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great talking to you, and hopefully we get a lot of information out there for people to watch this and let them know, just who you are as a person, where you get your decisions from, how you make your decisions, and we appreciate it all. And happy April Fool's Day.
Awesome. You guys too. Thanks for what you do, guys. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.